Welcome, everyone. Welcome to our Inter-IFAS live program that we have every week. 3 times a week, we bring you guests, special guests on Inter-IFAS. As I share with you every week, Inter-IFAS is our social media part of the Institute for Applied Spiritual Technology, and it's inspired by His Holiness Bhakti Tirtha Maharaj. And we're also always so eager and so anxious to bring to you persons that have had personal association with Bhakti Tirtha Maharaj to share their memories. So tonight we have with us a dear friend and also a really sincere disciple of Bhakti Tirtha Maharaj. Her name is Ambika Devi. And Ambika, you know, there's so many things that we can share about you, Ambika, especially around what I always remember in terms of our spiritual master, you know, his eagerness for you to be in all of our festivals. And I'll talk a little bit about that. However, I want to share first a little bit about how Ambika came to Krishna consciousness. She was sharing with me that she actually got introduced by her uncle when she was 5 years old. He was initiated by Srila Prabhupada in Montreal, and he came home one day to their house, and he had on dhoti and kurta and shaven head, and he was a full-blown devotee of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So she remembers that her uncle had a Go Back to Godhead magazine. And so she would look through that magazine, and she remembered thinking, even as a young child, when she saw the picture of baby Krishna, she thought, what a beautiful blue girl. I thought that was so cute. This little beautiful blue girl. And so, that was Ambika's first introduction to Krishna consciousness. And then it was years later, her mom, you know, they're in New York, and her mom is going to work. And of course, she sees the devotees, you know, distributing books. And her mom is very curious because, of course, you know, she knew about Srila Prabhupada from many, many years before. And so one day, her mom is walking down the street in Brooklyn, near to the Brooklyn Temple, and she gets the book. She takes one of the books from one of the persons that's selling books there. And I believe it was the Science of Self-Realization. Yeah, Science of Self-Realization. And she read it, and she took her children to the temple, and they've been at the temple ever since. So I don't know what year exactly that was. Ambika will fill us in on the year. However, it was years later, well, some years later, when Ambika is studying at Howard University in Washington, D.C., and she met some of the disciples of our Guru Maharaj, who shared with her that there was a preaching center in Washington, D.C., and that Bhakti Tirtha Maharaj was speaking at this preaching center. He would speak there usually. And so Ambika was curious to know about that, and she came to the preaching center, and that's where she met Bhakti Tirtha Maharaj, and she met more of the devotees. And so she would regularly come to the preaching center. However, the thing I remember the most that keeps with me only because I happen to be the intermediary person that would always be calling her, because she is, I'm guessing she still is, a dancer, and she's a really good Bharatanatyam dancer. Her and her sister, both, they're very, you know, you look at them and you just think that you're in the spiritual world somewhere when they dance. And so our Guru Maharaj, Bhakti Tirtha Swami, a festival or anything where we would invite people, he would say, call Ambika to come and dance. I want her to dance. And so she and her sister, Tirtha Devi, it's like amazing to watch them, you know, both of them dance. They're like very, very expert. And so Bhakti Tirtha Maharaj would be so proud of Ambika because, you know, Ambika is like an academician. How do you say that word? She's definitely, she's a speech pathologist. So she studied all this like academic stuff. So to see her as a speech pathologist and also a dancer, they kind of like seemingly don't go together, right? However, she does them both. She does both of her profession. She's a professional dancer and she is a professional speech pathologist. And she does them both with dignity and grace. And we just love, love, love to see her dance. And so, Ambika, we're so happy that you can be here with us tonight. We're really excited to hear you share about our Gurudev, some of your sweet memories.
Thank you. Hare Krishna, everyone. Thank you. Thank you so, so much. I'm honored and very humble that you asked me to speak. So thank you very much. It's funny because when I think of Gurudev, I think of Gurudev, but like Mother Rajalila said, I first fell in love with Gurudev through his disciples because they were so sweet, so kind, and made sure that, you know, I came to the temple and that I was learning about Krishna consciousness. So I definitely felt cared for. In terms of devotee care, I definitely got it when I went to IFAST in DC. But before I even got there, it was funny. My first lecture with Gurudev was, he came to New York. And at that time I was very young in ISKCON. Maybe about like 19 or 20. I started coming when I was 15. So I was really following my mom. But then as I got older and I kept coming more, I started getting interested. And I saw Gurudev give class in the Brooklyn Temple. It was interesting because it was very, very loud. He was preaching loud. And I felt like he wanted everybody to really get what he was trying to say, get the point about being Krishna conscious and chanting. And it was very loud. Anyways, we saw him and that was it, you know. Then I think that summer, it was New York Rath. And then I saw some of his disciples from DC come. We talked a little bit. And again, that was it. And years later, as Mother Rajalila was saying, I went to Howard University. And I remember the day when I first met one of Gurudev's disciples. Her name was Mother Parvati. And she was outside selling books near the campus. And I was running to class late and I saw her and I made eye contact with her because I saw she was selling one of Srila Prabhupada's books. Just like my mom, I saw Science of Self-Realization on her table. And I had to make a quick decision, go to class or stop and talk to her. So I quickly ran up to her and I said, I'm so sorry, I'm late. And I asked her, how long are you gonna be out here? And she said, you gotta run to class, I'll wait. And she was so sweet. She waited for like an hour and a half, 2 hours. And when I came back, she was standing there. And I had this conversation. I said, oh my God, are you a Hare Krishna? And she's like, yes. I said, oh my God, thank God. How do you guys get to the temple? Because when I called, the only place that I knew about was, that I saw in the book was the Potomac Temple. And when I called there, they said, you have to take a train to the last stop, the bus to the last stop, and then you have to walk a mile. And I said, oh my God, and I wasn't driving. So when I saw her, she goes, oh no, the temple is there, but there's also one here in DC. And I said, well, it's not listed. And she said, yeah, it's called the International, oh my God, it's called IFAST. I'm forgetting the names now, I'm getting so nervous. But it's IFAST. And she said, oh yeah, you have to take the train to, I think it was Avenue H or something. And I was so thankful that I met her. And then from then on, every time there was a class or when, whenever I finished my class, I would go there. And I was so happy when I went there and I saw devotees chanting. It was a nice, cozy living room. And then they had the kitchen towards the back and there were some tables on the side and there were, some chairs set up. And when I got there, it felt like home. It felt so sweet. And I would go there and associate, chant, talk. And they would also talk about Guru Maharaj. And, it was from there that I started. I was like, okay, I really want to be a part of this. So I kept on coming. And then with Mother Rajalila's encouragement and some of the other devotees as well, I took the Bhakti class. And those who decided at the end of the class who wanted to take initiation, they were going to go and talk to Gurudev. At the end of the class, right as we were supposed to all go in and ask, I got the chicken pox. So I didn't get to go and ask Gurudev at that time, but I wanted to. And I felt like, oh my God. But still, Krishna was very merciful. I was able to travel with Mother Rajalila and Equivira to, I think it was to Cleveland. And I stayed at Gurudev's sister's house. And I can't remember her name, but I did stay there. And then I got to talk with Maj right there. So that was one of my moments there when I got to sit with him. And Mother Rajali and Equivira were there at the time. And then we discussed my initiation. It was very, very sweet. And then after that, we headed off to Detroit. But even before then, even at the Institute House, Gurudev was always very quick. I didn't get to see him for a while because he was doing a lot of traveling. So I remember the one time that he did come in, we were there, but then he went upstairs very quickly, and it was getting late and I had to leave. So he was always busy. He never was able to, unless he was actually like preaching or doing something, he was on the move. I remember Gurudev being very, very active. Yeah, so, and then later on when, as I was telling you about that, the very loud class that he gave in New York, I also remember him saying that he also used to preach very loud when he came here to the West, because he forgot when he went to places like Africa, he didn't always have a mic. So he was used to always shouting and yelling at the top of his voice because he didn't have a mic. So when he came back here, he forget that he would have a mic, and that's why he would still end up preaching loud. So that's one of the things I remember. And that day when we got initiated, it was very sweet. I was very excited and nervous at the same time because Guru Maharaj was giving a class. And I remember his words very clearly. He said, what I'm initiating you to in here is to be kind and loving, which you hear a lot of people talking about now. But Gurudev was always preaching about being kind and loving and compassionate. And he said, you know, at our initiation day, you must be kind and compassionate. You must have compassion. And if you're not ready to have compassion, then it's okay, I understand. Then I won't initiate you, but you must have compassion. And I remember also he was very, very sweet and very kind. Somebody asked, should the initiates fast? And Gurudev said, no, this is a celebration. The initiates don't have to fast. It's a day they can feast. So we were very happy. I was like, uh-oh, we have to fast. So he said, no, we got to feast that day. And one thing I also remembered, how he was doing all of this and he was so humble. He, and what even confirmed it even more for me, he was like, I'm not initiating you for myself. He said, I'm offering you to Srila Prabhupada. And I thought that was very, very sweet, you know. Because at the time, a lot of people were having issues with sannyasis in ISKCON. And, you know, you hear all of these things. And every time I heard Gurudev speak, it just confirmed and solidified that, you know, I was in the right place. And when he said those words that, you know, we have to be compassionate and loving, this is what this movement is about. And he's offering us to Srila Prabhupada to continue Srila Prabhupada's mission. I knew, you know, Gurudev was sincere, he was real, and he was definitely, as he said, a warrior. He wanted us to become very God conscious. Another close time that I had with Gurudev was soon after initiation. I didn't used to go to Gita Nagari that much. I think maybe once before, but then after initiation, I know Gurudev, he started working with a lot of the members in Gita Nagari. So I hitched a ride to Gita Nagari, but I don't think the people who I came with were ready to go back to DC, and I had to get back for classes. So I remember this one other devotee was leaving Sadachar Prabhu, God rest his soul, and Gurudev was coming back to DC. So they arranged where I could ride back with Gurudev and Sadachar in the car. And one lesson that I learned there, while we were driving back, I was sitting in the car chanting, and Gurudev asked me to read. And I started reading from, I think it was Chaitanya Charitamrita. And I was reading, and Gurudev continued. He was really like listening to every single word, even when I pronounced it, wrong. He was correcting me. So it wasn't like he was just making me read, just to give me something to do. He was actually being very attentive, and I learned there that, and these things as I'm talking about, it makes me realize even more that he wanted us to always take spiritual life seriously and not just once in a while. It could be done, throughout the day. If you're not actually chanting, then you could be listening. If you're not doing some type of service, there's always something to do in Krishna consciousness. And it was sweet because Gurudev actually dropped me off to school. So it was really sweet. That day I got dropped off by Gurudev to continue my classes. Another time, he came for, I remember he used to come to the Radha Yatras in New York. And there was one year where I was so sad because I didn't see him. And I was wondering if he had came and then left, and I didn't get to really see where he is. So I remember standing in front of the altar and kind of being sad about it and lamenting. And then all of a sudden I hear his drum beating in the back. And he was like the only person I knew who used to beat that drum. And my heart jumped. It's like, oh my God, it was like my prayers were answered, because that day, that was it for me. Even though everybody was happily in the Sunday kirtan happening after Rath, that just made it for me when I heard, Gurudev playing his drum in the kirtan. So that was very sweet. It wasn't, a lot of my moments with Gurudev weren't like really personal. It was always like, in a major group dynamic, but I always, felt it. There was another time he was giving a class, and sometimes I guess it happens to everyone when the guru is talking, and somehow it went straight to my heart. I was going through a little bit of a heartbreak, but he gave such a wonderful and inspirational class, and he said, always think of it as Krishna's, blessing. Don't sit there and lament over these type of things. There's always a blessing to be seen, and maybe Krishna arranged it for you that way. And it was like, wow, like he that was sent right to me. I felt it, even though I was sitting way to the back of the hall. I felt his words coming right at me. Another time that I spent with Gurudev was after we had performed. It was afterwards, and he was so sweet. He actually thanked us for it. He gave me and my sister a very big compliment. He said, "Thank you so much. That was very, very sweet," and he was so genuine about it. And it was hard at that time to get moments with Gurudev, because it was always a lot of people around him, a lot of like the brahmacharis and stuff. But it's sweet that he took that small moment to come over to me and my sister. There was another time, he was also very kind to me. I had written to him and I told him that I was struggling with my rounds. And he was a little saddened. He was heartbroken. He said that keep trying, but always stay in the association of devotees. So, all throughout along, I got little lessons, not little, they're big, but he always was able to find time to feed me lessons. And then another time he was giving class at 2nd Avenue. This was around another Radha Yatra season when he came. And no matter how hard I tried, we still arrived late. And I got a chastiser. He didn't like when you were late. And he chastised and said, Ambika, everybody else made the time. You should have made the time as well to get here on time. So Gurudev was always in this, he was sweet, but like urging you to be very spiritual and take your spiritual life seriously. Don't, no fooling around. There was no time to fool around. It was always like a matter of urgency for Gurudev. This is what you have to do. You have to be on time. You have to do your rounds. Always make sure your mind is focused on Krishna. Another time, I remember we were in India the same time as Gurudev. This was, I think, 1997. Yeah, 1997. It was funny. I was there with some of my other god sisters, and we were just kind of very happy-go-lucky. We were in the Dham, and it was a little overwhelming. So we went and we took a lunch break. But then again, we missed Gurudev. we missed it. He had a very nice kirtan and a nice darshan. I was sad that we kind of missed that with him. But then we did get to meet with him nicely, and he did talk with us after a while, all of us together. I think some of the our god brothers were there with him during the kirtan. Then afterwards, another night, we did get to meet with him. We had Gurudev's darshan. Another memory that I had with Gurudev was also speaking with him over the phone. There were 2 occasions. He was very comforting. When I had moved here to New York, because I was staying in Washington for 2 years. So I think he was probably expecting me to stay there, but I acted a little independently, not a little, a lot. And I did come back here to New York. I'm still here. And he did speak about it to me. He said, I thought you would have wanted to stay in the DC area. I think he was a bit disappointed there when I stayed. And there was another favor Gurudev had asked for me. Yes, I went to the Nigerian embassy because at that time, Gurudev hardly stayed in one place. It was always, he was always here, there, and everywhere. If it wasn't in Africa, it was in Europe and here. So that time he was here briefly. And I think usually it was after the Memorial Day weekend when everybody gathered in Gitanagari for whatever samskara was going to be performed. It was around that time afterwards he had asked me to get his visa to go to Nigeria. So that was another very personal service that I got to do for Gurudev that I treasure and I remember. What I loved with Gurudev is that he was very inclusive. He wanted everybody. He wasn't sectarian, he didn't care who your guru was or what sampradaya you were in and all of these things. He was just more concerned with whether you were chanting Hare Krishna. And what I loved was Memorial Day weekend when we would all get together in Gitanagari. And that happened for like a good 10 years, 1995, 2005, like every year we would all get together. And it was just amazing. You know, Gurudev did everything with such fever. It was his all was, it was in it. His whole body, his eyes, his words, his energy, every muscle in his body was just to being Krishna conscious and making sure everybody was Krishna conscious and happy. You could see it in the way he danced, in the way he moved, in the way he talked, and the way he talked to everyone. He didn't just, uh, stay for himself in a certain area. He wasn't that kind of personality. He was very, very giving, very, very loving. Um, so those are like what I treasure is when I think about his him not being here is that those moments, his very enthusiastic way of being in everything. When it came to Krishna, everything in Krishna consciousness, I remember was just so exciting. I mean, it's still exciting for me now, but it was just like watching how Gurudev was so excited. It made me excited. And watching how my other God brothers and sisters acted and moved around in devotee circles, it gave me that it was very inspiring for me. And I always say I fell in love with Gurudev's disciples first, you know. And then when I saw him, everything, I could see how everything just came together for me. It was just, I kind of went around before I got to Gurudev, but it was just, that's how much it was for me. And in all that time, like I said, those memories stuck out for me for how caring he was. He wanted to make sure that, you were keeping up, that you were involved, you were engaged and stuff. And those are the things that I cherish most about Gurudev, how he was all inclusive. He didn't single out anyone. He wanted everyone to associate with each other, always act. Don't just sit there and ponder about anything or get sad. He said, think of a solution, and if that's a solution, then figure out a way to go and get it. And it's funny because when I listen to a lot of people, sometimes you're listening to them on YouTube, these motivational speakers, and I listen to what they say, and I say, Gurudev used to tell us that. Gurudev used to tell us all of these things. And he's just saying that from so long ago. And now when I see how crazy the times are, it's like, wow, he was like a visionary. He saw all of this before I could even imagine, that all of this chaos was gonna come in. So that's what I remember most about Gurudev, and also he's keeping myself engaged and care, respect, and love for devotees. And he said, try and respect devotees. And, if it was a relationship that you really couldn't keep up with, then, you honor that person from a distance, but you honor and respect all devotees. So those were the memories that I was able to bring up with Gurudev. Did I miss anything? Another darshan I had with Gurudev was, this was right before he gave me Gayatri Mantra. He was there with Chandramouli Maharaj, and they both gave us a chanting class, like how I should chant. And, because I was telling him, yeah, I'm trying to do my rounds, but I'm doing some in the car, I'm doing some here. And I got chastised for that too. You always got to set that time aside, not when you're busy or you're hurried. That's the time to really focus in on what the mantra is and for you to feel it. He said, when you're driving, you could probably get a little too excited. You never know what could happen. That could be dangerous. So maintain focus chanting is my other lesson that I take away.
Thank you so much, Ambika. Those are beautiful and wonderful memories. My goodness. Yeah, I was thinking how you said Gurudev, he was so personal. And
Mhm.
even though you said that you didn't have so much association with him, still when you speak, you hear that you did have association with him. And I'm wondering, like now that he's physically not on the planet, what is it, because he started this institute, and it's the Institute for Applied Spiritual Technology. It means we apply the things that he taught us. So
Mhm.
what are some things that you find now in this time of chaos that you're able to apply on a daily basis that Gurudev emphasized when he was on the planet?
Um, well, he definitely said for all of us to um, associate with devotees. So I find that even though we're apart, I realize that we're associating a whole lot more now and a whole lot more personal because we're in everybody's homes now. You can see what the living room looks like, you know. Um, with some of the ladies at the Brooklyn Temple, we're reading together. Also, these disciples meetings and also the chat rooms, they're very, very busy now. So you're definitely getting the association, that nectar of being around devotees and seeing what's happening. Kirtan's here. We could zoom into different temples now and see their what's going on, the darshan and stuff. So that I'm holding, and also uh, building a stronger community of devotees. You
Mm.
know, I think now that we're not physically able to be with each other as much, I feel like that hankering is there, just to see other devotees, just to hear other devotees, see what's going on. So that is one of the major things that I remember him focusing on. And also, I'm trying to read more and become a stronger devotee. I mean, I've always read here, but I'm trying to do like more focused reading and understand the teachings even deeper. And whenever the time permits, explain to others who don't understand exactly what I'm doing. If there is some interest, then I could explain it properly with more science than just, oh, it's I feel good, I like it, that kind of thing. Because I was never a one to really question the doctrine. I just as soon as I came in, I just liked it, you know. I mean, when I came in, I was like 15, so it was all very new, you know. Um, Seeing how the devotees danced, even the smell of the prasadam in the temple room was very different for me. The incense, it was very different. But then, slowly I allowed it to come in, and it was just something that I liked. So um, now when you're talking to people, you kind of have to dish out the facts, as they say. It can't just be like a feeling. So I'm trying to work on that also. Uh, get my more of my facts together, learning.
Yeah, that's really wonderful. You're so fortunate because your mother and your sister, your whole family are devotees. So you have a lot of association. You're very, very blessed. And I believe everyone is Guru Maharaj's disciples, right? Bhakti Tirtha Maharaj's disciple. Your
Yeah,
sister, mom.
yeah. The funny thing, I was just thinking about that. We all remember seeing Gurudev, but I was the first one to actually um, go and get initiated. And the funny thing with that was, even though I was the first one to get initiated, I was like the most reluctant one to become Krishna conscious when we started. My sister was actually enjoying it a whole lot more. My mom was ready, to wear sari and do things in the temple. And at 15, I was just like, we'll see. We'll see. you know, I'll take it slow. And they were shocked because then when I went to DC, I think my mom, we had heard of him because Gurudev had another disciple living in New York at the time. And sometimes she would come and we wouldn't see her, and then we would ask her where she went. So she would tell us that she was in DC, and she was telling us about it. And we were like, oh, it sounds, cool. And I think my mom was interested in meeting Gurudev for a while, but I guess everything happens in its own time. Because it's after I went to Washington, then I told my mom, and she was like, oh my God, I've always wanted, my mom was actually the one who always wanted to meet Gurudev, but somehow it just didn't happen. And I kind of met him before her and got initiated before her. So, and then afterwards, the year after, I think my mom, soon after my mom wrote him and told her she was interested. And then the year after, that's when she got initiated. Yeah. And she got initiated, she got first the year after 96, and then second in 97. So, and then she got second before me.
You're all a beautiful family. Bakiat, would you like to ask any questions of Ambika or any question? Anything you'd like to share? Yes.
Hare Krishna to everybody. Thank you very much.
Let me just share with Ambika that you're in Kazakhstan.
Yes,
Ambika.
I am here. Still here. Yeah. I don't have questions. Just want to say huge thank you for telling your story. Just it's incredible. You said this instruction, this actual request from Bhakti Tirtha Swami. You must be compassionate. You must be kind. You must be loving. It's something you can't like accept it just theoretically. Yeah, it's a knowledge that comes from heart to heart, and his example inspires to be compassionate. Just I'm taking this instruction from him into my heart. So I don't know how I will be compassionate, because it's not such an easy thing. Yeah. It doesn't happen automatically. But it's great. I mean, it's something, when he asks us to be compassionate, he shows his compassion to us as well, because it's such a saving feeling. Yeah, it protects us from our ego and from all this, not necessary qualities and feelings inside of us. Thank you very much for telling the story. It's so important for us. You said yourself that you found a way to your Guru Maharaj, first meeting his disciples, and you said you fell in love with his disciples. And meeting disciples, I also feel that I like falling in love with you all, and it's so important for us. You can't imagine how important for us, for those who are like still new, maybe beginners in Krishna consciousness. Thank you very much for your example, for your dedication to Guru Maharaj, because it shows us again and again that such a relationships are real. They are real. They exist in this world, and it gives a lot of, a lot for me personally. Thanks a lot.
Yeah, I can't describe how Gurudev always made Krishna consciousness something exciting. Like wherever he was, it always felt like the place to be. I didn't. Whenever Gurudev was around and I was able to get there, I felt complete joy. And when I think about him, and when I see pictures of him, it brings it all back, and it reminds me of why we're still here. What our service should be. and what we have to continue doing. You know, even though everything right now is it's so chaotic, and you know, here in New York especially, we had the riots, and we were at the epicenter of everything, the COVID, the pandemic. You know, we had a high rate of people dying, just bodies. We always had to remember to stay focused in Krishna, you know. And it's hard because you see all of this going on around you, and it's like, you know, you react, you're tempted to react. And then you have to reflect back, you know, why are these people acting this way? And it's exactly what Gurudev said, you know, that we don't have any love or we don't have any compassion. Everybody is just ignorant of each other, sectarian, you know. We're not thinking to go beyond the physicality and where everybody is and everything, and just be compassionate to our fellow man and loving, you know. And if people would really imbibe all of these things, you know, and take it to heart and really understand it, we can all live harmoniously, you know. But that's the struggle that we have, you know. We're trying to do that, but then there's this battle on the outside. So yeah. So that's why I guess, you know, Gurudev he was a spiritual warrior indeed, you know, and that's why he was always so ready, you know, ready to go out there and do battle, ready to go out there and actually give people Krishna and teach them, you know, that with Krishna we can go on through life and we can understand all the madness that's going on around us, and we can be ready. So I think that's one of the reasons why I could keep sane, is that I remember my Gurudev's actions. I remember how he was, and I remember what he was saying in all of his classes. You know, you have to arm yourself with Krishna consciousness. You know, always make sure that you have devotees around you. You get caught up in all of this stuff, you will also get lost, even though it's, you know, you have to understand it and be able to show people how they can be in this world and not react. You react to it and then it causes another reaction, you know. So that's how I can keep myself together, is remembering Gurudev, remembering his words, remembering his classes. And he did say it was going to happen, and it's here, you know. So we have to be able to act in this kind of madness and teach our kids, you know, to be strong and keep your faith, keep the sadhana. That's what's going to keep us through it, you know?
Thank you so much. Kishorani, is there any questions or anything you'd like to share?
Thank you so much for everything you shared today. Especially for me, it was powerful to hear that we have to take our spiritual life seriously, not once in a while, but always. Thank you so much. And actually, I wanted to ask you about spiritual warrior. Did Bhakti Tirtha Maharaj expected his disciples to be also spiritual warriors, or not really? Because I really like his mood to be a spiritual warrior, but sometimes I can hear from other devotees, so we don't want to be in a war. We don't be warriors. We just want to be a devotees, like loving and compassion. And somehow it's like, if I'm a warrior, it means I'm not loving and compassion. I'm in the middle of the war. So
yeah. I think Gurudev just wanted us to be ready for what was going to come at us. I think that was what he meant by spiritual warrior. And technically we are now, you know, with everything going on, it's a battle. You know, when you go out there, you have to wear this mask, and, you know, and going outside now is like crazy for us because we're constantly disinfecting our hands, you know, we're doing all of this stuff. It's like, it's crazy. So I think that's what Gurudev meant, to just be ready, so that's why he was so urgent, like, read Krishna consciousness, Krishna conscious books, listen to lectures and associate with devotees, because it is an attack. Maya can get you at any time. You don't know when. It's there. It's right there for you. So I think that was his urgency for us, is to be a warrior in that sense, and that's why he called it the spiritual warrior. So yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Ambika. So sweet, that spiritual warrior. Sometimes we tend to think that spiritual warrior means like passionate battle. And I believe our Guru Maharaj was like in a mood where, certainly like you said, spiritual warrior meant being in battle with understanding things like compassion and caring, because ultimately the battle is to bring a soul back to Krishna. That's the real battle. And so it's only love, it's only compassion, it's only care that's going to attract that soul back to Krishna. And so if somebody can have those as their weapons, then they are ready for the battle. So like you said, Ambika, I'm really appreciating that this spiritual warrior is to know the kind of things that we're going to face in the world, which we are facing now, and to have those armors ready, which is to be compassionate and to be kind and to be loving, because already people are facing the kind of things they're facing now that's making them even more passionate and disturbed. So we want to try to see how to move people out of that kind of consciousness. Yeah, and so he did request his disciples to be spiritual warriors in that sense. And I always share how at the time when he was leaving his body, that was the last instruction he gave to me, was to be compassionate. That was the very last thing before he left his body. So this compassion cannot be minimized.
I know.
It's very powerful, very powerful. Yeah.
It's hard sometimes, but gotta keep trying.
Yeah, we do. And we got to start with ourselves, being compassionate with ourselves, which means recognizing, the soul within us and not be so distracted by all the layers of things that may be there. But thank you. We're so very grateful that you came on, and I didn't get a chance to talk so much with you about a trip that we took together, me, you, and Ekavira, to India.
Yes, yes, I do forget. Yeah, it was very sweet, and I learned a lot. A lot. It sometimes when I'm trying to think back now, it becomes like a blur, but it was very sweet at the same time. I got to meet a lot of different devotees. Radhanath Maharaj, I never thought I would be talking to him so closely and remember him. He was really, really sweet. I got a lot of his darshan. And again, his disciples were also very, very sweet. And it reflects, if it starts from the top. And Gurudev taught his disciples how to act, and that made me want to be a part of the family. I wanted that devotee kind of association, that closeness, that bond, that sweetness. And I felt it from Gurudev, I felt it from his disciples. I saw it in the way everybody interacted. They did service. Everything was definitely for Krishna. It was fun. It was loving. And I enjoyed it. And it made it exciting, So I always carry that with me, even through all the struggles that are happening here, I carry that with me, and that's why I can continue, because I remember how he acted. I remember how my god brothers and sisters acted with me, just coming in and stuff like that. Very sweet. So I try to continue that.
Thank you so much. You sound like you have your applied spiritual technology that's with you all the time. Thank you. We appreciate you coming, and we want to invite you back again, Ambika, later on, probably later on in the end of the summer. We thank you so much for coming on, and we're hoping we can.
Thank you.
we're hoping we could maybe get your mom and your sister. So I'll keep talking. I'll keep seeing if I can get them to come on some point in time.
Yeah.
We so much want to thank Sherry and Bhakti for being on with us tonight. You know, it's so sweet. These devotees, they never met Guru Maharaj. I share this sometimes how they never met him, but Bhakti met Guru Maharaj through his books. And Kishore Rani met Bhakti Tirtha Maharaj, I'm sure through his books, but however, through another devotee who fell in love with our Guru Maharaj through his books in Kazakhstan. And so here they are the ones that's motivating me, inspiring me, and always encouraging me to do things for Bhakti Tirtha Maharaj, do more, do classes, do this, do that. And I'm like, okay. And so they have so much love. They have so much love for our Guru Maharaj. And so for them, you know, it's so exciting when the devotees can come on and share about Gurudev. So I thank them very much for being a part of this beautiful series of memories of Guru Bhakti Tirtha Maharaj. Thank you so very much. Thank you, Ambika. Hari Hari Bol. Thank you.
Hari Hari Bol, guys. Thank you.